My name's Jake Whitman and this is my family revenge and betrayal story. I thought I knew my family, until I found a hidden letter in my mom's old cookbook. Turns out, my dad was a secret agent, my mom was murdered, and my uncle betrayed us all. By the time the truth came out, I wasn't just a son anymore. I was a weapon. If you enjoy stories filled with mystery, betrayal, and jaw-dropping twists, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss another story in our weekly uploads. Welcome back to the story. The wind in Vermont always felt sharper in November, like it carried the memory of winter on its breath. As I stepped out of my truck and onto the gravel driveway of our family home in Norwich, the cold slapped me across the face like a warning. I hadn't been back since Mom's funeral 3 months ago, and nothing felt the same. The old farmhouse stood like a monument to simpler times, its white paint chipped, porch swaying idly. Dad was on the porch, hunched over in his flannel jacket, staring out at the maple trees that had already lost their leaves. When he saw me, he stood up a bit too fast, like he wasn't expecting me, even though we'd spoken on the phone just days earlier. "Jake," he said, voice gravelly but thin. "You made it." We hugged, stiff and uncertain. His arms didn't wrap around me the way they used to. There was something off in his eyes, distant. Calculating. I chalked it up to grief. We were both still adjusting to life without Mom. Inside, the house smelled like pine cleaner and wood smoke. But it was too clean. Every surface was spotless, not a speck of dust on the mantel where Mom's ceramic angels used to sit. They were gone. So were the photo frames, the knickknacks, anything personal. The warmth of the house had vanished with her. "You cleaned up," I said. Dad didn't respond. He just nodded, his eyes flicking toward the window. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the cold. Not even because of the silence, which had always blanketed the countryside like a lullaby. It was something else, something I couldn't name. At 1:13 a.m., I heard the floorboards creak. I followed the sound, quiet as I could. From the hallway, I watched through a crack in the kitchen door. Dad was on the phone, whispering, "No. I told you. He's here now. We have to move faster." A pause. His fingers tapped the table, quick, nervous. "If they know I've stayed this long, we're both burned. We don't have time to clean it up again." I stepped back, heart hammering in my chest. Again. What the hell did that mean? The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. Made pancakes, even smiled. But I noticed the gun that had reappeared in the drawer under the sink, the one he'd gotten rid of after Mom died. I noticed the locks on the shed, the coded keypad on the basement door, the way he kept glancing over his shoulder when we walked into town for groceries. I wanted to believe it was just grief, the paranoia of a man who'd lost his wife and lived too long in silence. But part of me already knew, this wasn't about loss, it was about secrets, and Thanksgiving would be the last normal holiday of my life. It started with a craving for Mom's maple pecan pie. The day after Thanksgiving, with the cold still settled in our bones, I found myself alone in the kitchen while Dad was out stacking firewood. I pulled open the bottom drawer where she used to keep her recipe books, spine-worn, butter-stained, filled with notes in her loopy handwriting. For a second, I let myself forget everything else. Just a son, missing his mom, trying to recreate something warm in a house that had gone cold. I flipped through New England family favorites, her favorite cookbook, and that's when I saw it. The pages around the pie recipe were unusually stiff. Taped together along the spine. Curious, I pried gently at the edges. They came apart with a faint snap, and a small, folded envelope slid into my lap. No address. No stamp. Just one phrase written in black ink across the front, "To Agent W." My heart stuttered. Agent? My father? I stared at it for a full minute before opening it, palms suddenly sweating despite the chill. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. Clean. Precise, they know. Burn everything. You stayed too long. If the boy is with you, it's already too late. Disappear. Now, no signature. No date. Nothing to tell me where it came from, or who sent it. Just that gut-nodding, pulse-tightening message, and the undeniable fact that it was meant for my dad. I read it again. And again. My brain refused to make sense of it. What did they know? Who was they? Why the hell would someone call my dad Agent W? I heard the back door creak open and shoved the letter back into the book, slipping it under the couch cushion as Dad stepped inside, face flushed from the cold. Find that recipe? He asked casually, wiping his hands on a towel. I nodded too quickly. Yeah. Just about to start. He gave me a long look, like he was trying to read something behind my eyes. I looked away and pulled out the pie ingredients. That night, while Dad dozed in front of the fire, I pulled the envelope out again. Studied the paper. The font. The strange, sterile language. I even sniffed it, like that would somehow make the truth more real. The words burn everything echoed in my head like a warning bell. Maybe I should have told him I found it. Maybe he would have explained. Maybe he would have lied. Instead, I waited until he went to bed, then snuck into the basement. The keypad next to the door blinked red. Locked. Not for tools. Not for storage, for secrets, and now I had one too. That letter had opened a door I couldn't close. My dad wasn't who I thought he was. And if what the letter said was true, neither was I. The first thing I heard was the crunch of tires on frozen gravel. It was just past 3 a.m., the kind of deep, silent hour where even the wind seems to sleep. I'd been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying that letter in my head again and again, when I caught the faint rumble of engines outside. Not one. Multiple. I pushed the curtain aside. Just enough to peek out, for black SUVs were idling at the edge of our driveway, headlights off, engines purring low and steady like predators waiting to pounce. My pulse spiked. These weren't neighbors. No one in our town drove anything like that. Then the front door burst open. Dad. He charged into my room, wild-eyed, dressed in dark clothes. His flannel was gone, replaced by a tactical jacket I'd never seen before. In one hand, he held a duffel bag. In the other, a loaded pistol. Get your boots, he snapped. We're running. What? I sat upright, heart pounding. Dad, what's going on? Who are those people? No time. He tossed the duffel at my feet. They found us. You need to move. The words from the letter screamed in my mind. If the boy is with you, it's already too late. I scrambled to throw on jeans, boots, a hoodie. My hands trembled as I zipped up my coat. I tried to ask questions, but my father's face was stone. He peeked out the window, then clicked something on a small black device in his pocket. Somewhere downstairs, I heard a soft beep. I need you to trust me, he said, meeting my eyes. Don't speak. Don't stop. And if I say run, you run. The cold hit us like a slap the moment we stepped outside. Dad led me around the side of the house, keeping low, moving like someone who had done this before. Because he had. I knew it now. The forest loomed behind us, thick, frozen, silent. He motioned me toward it. That's when I heard the SUV doors open, voices. Male. Sharp. Distant but getting closer. Dad turned, raised his pistol, and fired 2 quick shots into the air, not at anyone. A signal. A diversion. Then he grabbed my arm and yanked me toward the trees. We ran, ducking under branches. Crunching through half-frozen leaves. My lungs burned. My legs felt like lead. But I didn't stop. Behind us, I heard shouts, then the roar of engines revving. Whoever they were coming. My entire life had shattered in less than 10 minutes. My father wasn't a grieving widower. He was Agent W. And the past he'd buried had just clawed its way back from the grave. I didn't know where we were going. Or what waited for us, but that night, in the woods of Vermont, I stopped being a son, and started becoming a target. The deeper we ran, the quieter it got. Only the sound of our boots against frozen leaves and the ragged breath tearing from my lungs broke the silence. My thighs burned. My chest ached. But Dad never slowed. He moved like a man who knew the terrain better than his own heartbeat. After what felt like miles, we reached an old deer blind tucked into a cluster of pines. Weather-worn and half-collapsed, it looked abandoned, perfect. Dad swept the interior quickly, then motioned for me to crawl inside. He bolted the door behind us and finally, let out a breath. For a minute, the only sound was our breathing and the wind moaning through the trees. I wanted to scream at him. Ask him what the hell was going on. But I didn't. I just waited. He pulled off his gloves, then reached into his coat and pulled out a burner phone. He smashed it against the floor without a word. Then he sat down across from me. I never wanted you involved in this, he said, voice low. I laughed, bitter. Too late. He nodded, rubbing his face. For a moment, he looked older than I'd ever seen him. I used to work for a covert intelligence branch of the government. Black Ops. No paper trail. No name. Our unit specialized in infiltration and asset extraction, anywhere from Moscow to Marrakesh. I was good at it. Too good. And Mom? I asked quietly, his jaw clenched. She didn't know at first. But when she found out, she kept the secret. For years. Until I got out. You got out? I echoed. He shook his head slowly. You never really get out. That silence stretched between us, heavy and sharp. Something was still missing, some piece he was leaving out. I saw it in the way he avoided my eyes. In the way his hand hovered near the duffel bag. I pressed. Who are the people chasing us? The SUVs, the guns, who are they? He finally looked at me. Private contractors. A group we used to work alongside overseas. They went rogue. Started selling intel to the highest bidder, criminal networks, even foreign governments. I blew the whistle years ago. Got most of them shut down. But a few survived. And they never forgot my face. I swallowed hard. So now they're tying up loose ends. He nodded. And I'm the biggest one. I sat back, trying to make sense of it all. The man who fixed fences, taught me how to gut a trout, and brought cocoa to football games. Had once dismantled warlords and disappeared enemies. But now he looked over his shoulder at shadows and whispered to no one, "What aren't you telling me?" I asked finally. He looked down. "There's more. But if I tell you now, you won't come with me." That hit harder than any bullet could have. We weren't just running for our lives. We were running from a past I didn't understand, and from a truth I wasn't ready to face. By dawn, we'd made it to the old hunting cabin in the hills near Heartland, property that had supposedly been in the Whitman family for generations. Dad said it belonged to his brother. My Uncle Daniel. I'd been there once when I was 12, shooting BB guns and roasting marshmallows. Back then, it was a place of warmth. Nostalgia. Safety. Now it felt like a coffin in waiting. The cabin was buried deep in the woods, half swallowed by pine and snow. It looked deserted, roof sagging, shutters crooked, but inside, it was cleaner than I expected. Too clean. Wood stacked neatly in the corner. The fireplace prepped with kindling. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt watched. Dad didn't seem concerned. He swept through the place like he'd done it a dozen times, checking windows, securing doors. I could tell he knew every creak in the floorboards. Like maybe this wasn't the first time he'd hidden here. While he heated a can of stew over the fire, I wandered. My hands brushed over the old pine walls. I remembered where Daniel had let me carve my initials once, behind the bedroom door. I found them still there, JW, right where I'd left them, but then, something caught my eye, a sliver of light behind a wooden panel. I pressed against it. It shifted. Inside was a small hidden compartment, no larger than a shoebox. But what it held made my stomach flip: a compact surveillance camera. A listening device. Fresh batteries. And beneath that, photographs of me. Walking to class. Leaving work. Sitting on a bench outside my dorm. All time-stamped. All recent. I stared in disbelief. My throat closed up. Behind me, the floor creaked. Dad. He saw the look on my face and immediately stepped forward. When he saw what I'd found, his expression hardened. Not surprised. Just resigned. How long has he been watching us? I asked, voice cracking. Longer than I hoped, Dad said quietly. I held up one of the photos, my hands shaking. You knew. He sighed. I suspected. Daniel's always had connections. After I left the agency, I thought I could trust him. Turns out, he was the one who tipped them off. Probably feeding them information for years. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the ribs. Uncle Daniel had been my safe person. After Mom died, he'd checked in more than anyone. Called. Visited. He even helped me with college forms when Dad had shut down. He sold us out. I whispered, for the right price. Dad nodded. Yes. And he's not done. I sank to the edge of the bed, my mind spinning. I thought I'd lost my mother. I thought I knew who my father was. Now my uncle, my godfather, was the enemy. The floor beneath me no longer felt solid. The Whitman name had always meant something here in Vermont: tradition. Family, loyalty, but the deeper I looked, the more lies I found stitched into our bloodline. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I lay on the creaky bed in the corner of the cabin, staring at the rotted ceiling boards, trying to understand how my world had collapsed so completely in just a few days. My father was a secret agent. My uncle was a traitor. And I was running through the Vermont backwoods with nothing but half-truths and a growing knot in my chest. But one question kept clawing at my mind, relentless and ugly: what really happened to Mom? By morning, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Dad was at the table, sipping black coffee like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He looked tired. Older. Like every secret he'd ever carried was finally weighing him down. Tell me the truth, I said, standing in the doorway. My voice was steady, but my hands weren't. About Mom. His gaze shifted. Jake, no more dodging. No more half-answers. Was her cancer even real? The mug in his hand trembled, just slightly. He set it down. Slowly, carefully, like it might explode. She was sick, he said. But not with cancer. That hit me like a slap. I stepped forward. Then what? He didn't look at me. Just stared at the wood grain on the table like it held the answers he couldn't say aloud. She found something, he said finally. Something she wasn't supposed to. I said nothing, afraid my voice would crack and shatter the moment. She found my old gear. IDs. Mission logs. She confronted me. I told her everything. I was done hiding. I wanted out, for her, for you. I thought honesty would bring us peace. But it didn't, I whispered. He shook his head. No. It brought death. The air between us went still. She was followed, he continued. A week later, she got into a car accident. But there was no impact. No skid marks. Just a blown brake line and a quiet funeral. I felt cold all over. So she was murdered. He nodded once, jaw clenched. And Daniel? I asked, already knowing. His silence was answer enough. He was supposed to watch over her, Dad said, his voice like gravel. I didn't know he was already working with them. Feeding them intel. They got to her because of him. I backed away, like his words were made of poison. You both lied to me. Stood there at the funeral and told me it was cancer. I was protecting you. No, I snapped. You were protecting yourself. The betrayal sat between us like a loaded gun. I wanted to scream. To run. To make him pay. But deep down, I knew, he wasn't the only one at fault. Daniel had done more than lie. He'd orchestrated it. Covered it. And then looked me in the eye and called me family. I thought the worst pain was losing my mother. I was wrong. The worst was knowing she could have been saved, and that someone I loved helped kill her. We didn't return to Norwich as ourselves. I wore a thrift store Carhartt jacket and a red Sox cap pulled low. Dad shaved off his beard and dyed his silver hair dark, trading his rugged woodsman look for something cleaner, colder, more calculating. We looked like strangers, and that was the point. Sunday dinners at Uncle Daniel's had been tradition once. Fried chicken, sweet potatoes, and stories about who slipped on black ice that week. He was always warm, always laughing. The kind of man who made you feel like home was wherever he was. Now I knew it was all an act. We parked 2 blocks from his place and walked the rest of the way. His house hadn't changed, red shutters, a porch swing, the American flag slightly faded from the sun. Everything looked normal, but my skin crawled as we approached. He opened the door before we even knocked. Well, I'll be damned, Daniel said, blinking. Tommy. Dad stepped forward. You gonna let us in, or should we talk out here where your neighbors might hear? Daniel hesitated. Then he smiled, all charm and hollow warmth. Of course. Come on in. The dining room table was already set, for 3. Roast chicken, green beans, apple pie cooling on the counter. My stomach turned. You were expecting us, I said flatly. I figured it was only a matter of time, Daniel replied, pouring whiskey like we were still family. After what happened at the cabin, I knew you'd piece it together. Piece what together? I snapped. That you sold out your own brother. That you helped kill my mother. The mask cracked. Just a little, he sighed, sat down, and motioned for us to do the same. We didn't move. I didn't kill her, he said. I just didn't stop it. That's the same thing, Dad growled. Daniel leaned back in his chair. You don't understand what they offered me. Tom. You disappeared. Left me with scraps. They promised power. Protection. Money. After everything I did for this family, I deserved more than leftovers. You deserved prison, I muttered. He smiled at me. Still got that fire, huh? Just like your mom. She was never going to let him go. Even when it got her killed. Dad reached for his waistband. I grabbed his arm. Not yet, I whispered. Daniel caught the motion. Still carrying. You never did know when to put down the gun. And you never knew when to shut your damn mouth, Dad said, standing. I followed. The air was heavy. We didn't need more words. Daniel didn't chase us as we left. Didn't raise a hand or call for help. He just sat there, smiling, because he knew what we knew, that revenge was coming. That it would be slow, brutal, and personal, and that Sunday dinner was just the beginning. The air was brittle with cold as we left Daniel's house. It was snowing, soft flakes drifting through the gray sky like ash from a fire yet to burn. Dad and I said nothing as we walked the back roads toward the truck. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was coiled tension, waiting to snap. We should have ended it, I muttered. Dad didn't answer right away. He kept his eyes ahead, scanning rooftops, tree lines. There's a time for revenge, he said quietly. And a time for strategy. We never made it back to the truck. 2 figures stepped out from behind the trees. Black coats. Black rifles. No words. Just raised weapons. Down. Dad shouted, grabbing me by the collar and yanking me behind a snowbank as the first shots rang out. Bullets tore through the cold air, slicing into the frozen earth inches from where we'd fallen. I scrambled for the pistol he'd given me back at the cabin, my fingers numb. My breath coming in clouds. Dad returned fire. 2 precise shots. One of the men went down, the other circled wide, using the trees for cover. I spotted him, crouched and moving fast. I see him. I shouted, "Wait!" I didn't. I popped up, aimed, and squeezed the trigger. The gun kicked hard, but the shot was clean. The man crumpled to the snow like a puppet with its strings cut. For a heartbeat, everything went still. Then I heard Dad gasp. I turned, and saw him drop to his knees, a crimson bloom spreading across his jacket. "Dad!" I ran to him, catching him just before he fell face first into the snow. His face was pale, teeth gritted. He clutched his side, blood pouring between his fingers. "You're okay," I lied. "You're going to be okay." His eyes flicked to something behind me. Footsteps. Daniel. He stepped out slowly, calmly, a gun in his hand and a smirk on his lips. No more charm. No more games. Just the face of a man who'd been waiting for this moment. "I warned you, Tommy," he said. "You never knew when to walk away." I stood, rage boiling through me. "You did this." He raised the gun toward me. "Don't make me kill you too, kid." I didn't wait. I raised my pistol and fired once. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. Then he dropped, hitting the snow with a sickening thud. I stood there, chest heaving, gun still raised. My breath caught in my throat as the first siren wailed in the distance. Someone had heard the gunfire. Help was coming. But I didn't feel relief. I felt empty. I dropped beside Dad, pressing my hands over the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. His eyes fluttered, and for a second, he smiled. "You did good, Jake." Then he passed out. Blood stained the snow around us. My hands. My memories. Nothing would ever be the same, and somewhere in that falling snow, I knew the boy I'd been had died too. They airlifted Dad out of Norwich before the blood had even dried. The feds came in quick, quiet, efficient, with eyes that didn't blink and questions that didn't get real answers. I told them what happened. Or most of it. Enough to keep myself out of a cell. Enough to protect him. They stabilized him. Removed the bullet. And then, like a ghost slipping through the fog, Thomas Whitman disappeared. No hospital records. No official discharge. Just gone. They said it was for his safety. That some enemies don't die when you shoot them, they just get quieter. Harder to see. Dad needed a new identity. A new life. He got one. I didn't. I stayed behind, in the wreckage. The house in Norwich was boarded up. The townspeople whispered, about the gunfire, about Daniel, about the quiet son who came home for Thanksgiving and walked out with blood on his hands. They didn't know the half of it. I couldn't go back to school. Couldn't sit through lectures about economics while my hands still remembered how to load a magazine. So I disappeared in my own way, off-grid, under the radar, using what Dad taught me in those last few days. Turns out, I was a fast learner. I started small. Tracking down old files. Scanning dark web chatter. Following a paper trail that most people didn't even know existed. I found out more about the group that came after us, ex-intel turned mercenaries, selling secrets, eliminating liabilities, like my father. Like my mother, like me, I hunted one of them down in a motel outside Montreal. He tried to run. He didn't get far. That was the first. Now, I move from place to place. No roots. No name. Just whispers in the dark and a target list that keeps getting shorter. People think revenge burns hot. They're wrong. It's cold. Calculated. Patient. I visit Dad sometimes, though he'll never know. I've tracked him to a cabin in Colorado, off-grid and quiet. He looks older now, walks slower. But he's alive. That's enough. I leave notes sometimes. No names. Just words he'd recognize. Phrases from when I was a kid. Maple syrup, not too sweet. Hide and seek at dusk. The ridge behind the barn. I think he knows it's me. But we keep the distance. It's safer that way. I used to believe in Sunday dinners. In uncles who told fishing stories. In fathers who fix things with their hands. Not their guns, but that boy is gone, in his place is someone else. Someone forged in secrets, sharpened by loss. I don't walk in the light anymore, I watch from the shadows, because some stories don't end with justice, they end with balance, and I'm the one making sure the scale tips the right way. If this story gripped you, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more twisted tales from behind the curtain. Ever wondered what secrets your family might be hiding? Drop your theories in the comments. You never know who's watching.